Welcome back. We are in week 7, and in the last session, we have covered cybersecurity and attacks. Now, in this session, we are going to discuss various security threats. So, security threats in cybersecurity. So, security threats in cybersecurity are potential risk that can exploit vulnerabilities in systems, networks, or applications to cause harm, steal information, or disrupt some operations or services. So, security threat can appear in diverse form, including malware, phishing, ransomware, and insider attack. Each characterized by unique motivations and techniques. So, understanding the nature of these threats and their source is essential for developing effective strategies to prevent, detect, and respond to cyber incidents. Now, let's discuss the threat community. So, a threat community is a group of threat agents with their similar characteristics. So, let's discuss internal threats. So, privileged insiders, those who are working in an organization, they are known as privileged insiders. So, privileged insiders are individuals with specific access level, knowledge, or other privileges that enable them to bypass the security controls and cause harm. So, organizations place a significant level of trust in these individuals, meaning that if they choose to act maliciously, they have the capability to do so. While it is possible to detect their actions later, there are often no immediate safeguard in place to prevent them from doing some damages or harm to the organization assets. So people in these groups might be information security people, executives, database administrators, etc. So let's discuss some examples of privileged insiders. Malicious insiders. So employees who misuse their access to sensitive data for financial gain or to harm the organizations. Their inside knowledge helps them to exploit certain vulnerabilities. Negligent visitors or insiders, they are also uh, the employees of the organization who accidentally exposes the organizations to risk, such as clicking the phishing link or mishandling confidential data. So their lack of caution can uh, create some security weaknesses in the organization. In the same way, third-party vendors, usually partners or contractors, those who have access to the organization, they also have access to some sensitive information and may unnecessarily or deliberately compromise the security. So they can create entry points for cyber threats if their security measures are weak. So recognizing these internal threats is essential for organizations to improve the security strategies, enhance the employee training, and set some strict access control to protect the sensitive information. In the second category, nation state actors, normally government sponsored cyber threats. So, nation state actors are groups sponsored by government that engage in cyber activities to achieve political, economical, or military goals. So, their motivation often extend beyond financial gain to include strategic advantages and intelligence gathering. So these groups are typically well-funded and highly skilled, possessing a significant threat to both individuals and organizations. So some of the key characteristics of these type of actors, they are having high funding. So non-state actors have substantial financial resources at their disposal. In the same way, they are highly experts. So they possess advanced skills and training, allowing them to use a wide range of sophisticated tactics. So, what types of tactics normally they employed? So, one of the tactics that are very common that they employed is spenge. So, spying or intelligence gathering for obtaining secrets or some confidential information. So, this is one of the tactics they employed. In the same way, cyber warfare, disrupting critical infrastructure such as power grids, transportation systems, or some financial institutions, or weaken the organizational key assets. So these are some of the tactics they normally employed. In the same way, the data theft is stealing some confidential, sensitive governmental information data, which includes like intellectual properties, trade secrets, and personal data to gain the competitive advantages. Another tactics normally they employed is propaganda and disinformation. So spreading false information to manipulate the public opinion and create some social discord. These are the tactics normally the nation state actors they uses, and the organization has to develop effective cyber security strategies and to protect against these sophisticated threats. The next type of threat community is cyber criminals. So their main motivation is basically financial gain. So cyber criminals primarily engage in cyber crimes for financial gain, targeting both individuals and organizations by exploiting vulnerabilities to make money. So common crimes are like ransomware attack. So they normally have malicious software, encrypt a victim's data and rendering inaccessible of the data, and they normally demand some ransom to encrypt those data. So ransomware attack can result in a significant financial losses and operational disruptions for both businesses and individuals. Now let's try to understand the psychology behind the cyber criminals. So cyber criminals often use psychological manipulation to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information. Common targets include some credit card details, some login credentials, intellectual properties, and other personal data. So these tactics exploit human vulnerabilities by leveraging trust, curiosity, or urgency. So how they operate? Normally, the deceptive communication is being used. So attackers send some fraudulent emails, text, or messages that appears to be from trusted entities such as banks, social networks, or popular brands. So the main goal of this type of act is to trick individuals into clicking on malicious links and downloading the malware by entering the personal information on fake websites. So some of the examples are like fake bank alerts, account setting warnings, prize winning notifications, and so on. The next type of threat communities, they are hackers. So hackers is an individual with some advanced technical skills capable of manipulating the computer systems and networks. While the term hacker often has negative impact in the cyber world, but it is important to differentiate between the categories of the hackers. So we have something called ethical hackers and malicious hackers. So malicious hackers, mainly these are individuals exploits the vulnerabilities within the computer systems and networks for harmful purposes, such as stealing some confidential data or causing disruption and so on. While on the other hand, the ethical hackers, they are also, they mimics the act of malicious hacker, but their main practices is uh, to safeguard the systems. So for example, they uses techniques like penetrating testings and vulnerability assessment. So their main goal is to strengthen the organization's cybersecurity defenses against the potential threats. So again, as we have just discussed, so ethical hackers, often they are referred as white hat hackers. So they are normally authorized to access systems owns by the owner to test the security. So they are normally looking to the vulnerabilities in the existing system. So they try to find and exploit the system vulnerabilities to improve the security of that system. Also, their main goal is to enhance the security through some vulnerability testing and through some recommendations. So penetration testing, this is one of the testing that they perform. This basically simulates the attack to access the system security. On the other hand, malicious hackers, they are also called black hat hackers. So normally they have unauthorized access, so they exploit vulnerabilities without permissions, and their act is malicious. So their main motive is to gain some financial gain, or so to create some disruption within the system. So they normally perform cybercrime. So they are engaged in activities like hacking, phishing, and ransomware attack, or maybe data breaching, etc. So understanding the roles of the threat communities helps the organization implements effective cybersecurity strategies. Now, let's move to our next topic, types of security threats. In our previous sessions, we have discussed some of these types briefly, but now we are going to discuss in detail different types of security threats. So basically, security threats can be categorized based on the nature of the security threat and the impact. So the most common types include malware. So malware, the short form is malicious software, refers to any software specially designed to cause harm to computers, servers, some clients or computer networks. So it includes various forms, each with unique methods of infections and damage. So viruses is one of the malware. So malicious programs that attach themselves to legitimate programs or files and spread when these programs are executed, they are called viruses. So virus has the capability to delete files, steal data, disrupt the services, and so on. Worms is another type of malware, but the major difference between virus and worms is worms are stand-alone malicious program that replicate themselves to spread to other computers. There is no need for the user to interact to propagate, making them particularly very dangerous. Now, the other type of malware are Trojans. So these program tricks as legitimate software but contain malicious code. So Trojans can establish backdoors and enable attackers to gain remote access to the system, compromising its security. So ransomware is another type of malware which encrypt the victim's data, rendering it inaccessible and demands a ransom for decryption. So ransomware has emerged as one of the most destructive type of malware, with the potential to severely cripple the business and significantly disturb the operations of any organization. So if we see some examples of ransomware, so one of the example is WannaCry. So this ransom attack was the major security incident that impacted organization all over the world. So this type of attack occurred somewhere in 2017, and WannaCry ransomware spread to more than 200,000 computers in over 150 countries. And notable victims include FedEx, Honda, Nissan, and some similar types of organizations. Some other types of malware are spyware. Now, these types of software secretly monitors the user's activities and collect sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and browsing histories or activities without the user knowledge. Spyware possesses significant privacy risks and can lead to identity theft. Another type of malware is adware. This type of malware automatically delivers unwanted advertisements, often bundled with legitimate software. So adware also can collect users' data to serve targeted ads, impacting the user's experience and privacy. Now let's move to another type of malware, which is called rootkits. These are very sophisticated types of softwares that are designed to gain unauthorized root or administrative access to a computer. So rootkits enables attackers to control the system, often hide their presence and activities from detections. So which makes these type of malware a very dangerous malware for system security. Now let's move to another type of system security threats, which is phishing. So phishing is a form of social engineering attack where cybercriminals deceive individuals into revealing some sensitive information such as username, passwords, credit card numbers, some personal data like social security numbers, and so on, by impressing that the user is a trustworthy user. So this tactics is typically carried out through fraudulent emails, some messages, or maybe on some websites that normally appears legitimate. So prompting, normally they ask user to click certain malicious link and enter some of these information into a fake forms. So there are different types of phishing. Email phishing, as we have discussed. So this is like very common forms of phishing where attackers send fraudulent emails that seems to come from some trusted source such as bank, some reputed companies, or from some colleagues maybe. So these emails often contains urgent messages that prompts users to click some links, and those links are normally malicious links, or maybe they ask to download some attachments. So these types of tactics are being used and because of these tactics, it leads to the credential theft or the installation of the malware. So normally the attackers employ social engineering techniques to insist a sense of urgency or maybe fear, which increase the likelihood that the victims will comply with their request. Spear phishing is a type of phishing. So it unlikely like we have discussed like generic phishing attack. Spear phishing is a targeted approach aimed especially at a particular individuals or organizations. So attacker conducts some research and they identify their targets. So often these targets are personals, those who are well-known personals. So they also uses some social media or professional network to make the email appears as convincing. So spear phishing is a particularly dangerous as it can lead to more significant breaches such as unauthorized access to some sensitive corporate data or financial threat. One of the examples I can give you of spear phishing is recorded in the year 2020. So a spear phishing attack targeted Twitter employees, leading to a massive breach and takeover of high-profile accounts. Whaling is another sophisticated form of phishing that specifically targets high-profile individuals such as company executives, senior management, or government officials. So this type of attack is characterized by its tailored approach, where the cybercriminals conduct extensive research on their targets to craft the highly convincing messages that often mimics legitimate. So, so because these high profile individuals often have access to some sensitive information of the organization, and maybe they are decision makers, authorities also. So the stakes of whaling attacks are significantly higher. Smishing is another kind of phishing. This type of phishing attack utilize text messages, SMS, to deceive users into disclosing some sensitive information or maybe downloading the malware into their devices. So attacker typically send messages that appears to come from some legitimate source such as banks, service providers, or family contacts, often creating a sense of urgency to prompt immediate action. Another type of phishing is the vishing. So this is a voice phishing. So normally this is very common nowadays. Phishing is a form of phishing that utilizes phone calls to manipulate victims into divulging personal information such as account number, social security numbers, credit card details, and so on. So attackers often act like it's a very trusted entities, maybe someone who is speaking from the bank or some government agencies or maybe some technical support representative to create a sense of urgency and legitimacy. So during a phishing attack, the caller may employ various tactics to insist fear or pressure the victims into the compliance. So for example, they might claim that there has been suspicious activities on the victim's account, or there are some immediate actions that is required to avoid maybe the penalties or maybe some severe imprisonment and so on. So these psychological manipulation is designed to lower the victim's guard and encourage them to share sensitive information. Now let's move to the next type of security threats, that is denial of service and distributed denial of service. So both DOS and DDoS attack are malicious attempt to render a network service or website unavailable to the user by overwhelming it with an impressive volume of traffic or request. So the impact of these attacks can be severe, resulting in the loss of revenue, reputation damage, and increase the operational cost due to the recovery efforts. So let's discuss each of them in a more detail. So DOS attack, which stands for denial of service attack, basically originates from a single source, such as maybe individual computers or servers, and flood the targeted systems with overwhelming volumes of traffic or request. So this exercise influx consumes the target resources such as bandwidth, CPU, or memory, resulting in degrading the performance or the complete service unavailability. So the DOS attack can exploit vulnerabilities in the target software by sending maybe the malformed packets or overwhelming the application layer protocols. In the DDoS attack, it's different than the DOS attack. So in the DDoS attack, usually it involves multiple compromised systems. So often referred to as the botnet. So botnet is normally being used, which basically collectively generate massive volumes of traffic directed to certain targeted servers. So this coordinated attacks make mitigation significantly more challenging as the attack traffic appears to originate from various locations, from various sources, and normally these are identified by as legitimate type of traffic that is being generated on the targeted machines or servers. So DDoS attack can employ a range of methods, including amplifications attack, where the attack sends small requests to public accessible servers, resulting in much large response directed at the target. Now, another type of DDoS attack is the volumetric attack. These attacks aim to overwhelm the available bandwidth between the target and the internet by flooding the network with immense volumes of traffic. The goal is to consume all the bandwidth prevailing legitimate users from accessing the targeted services. Protocol attack is another kind where the attacker exploit the vulnerabilities in the network protocol stack, aiming to exhaust the server resources like network devices or firewall capabilities. So protocol attacks often focuses on specific weaknesses within the networks or within the system. Now, there is another kind of DDoS attack, which is application layer attack. So these type of DDoS attack specifically targets the vulnerabilities at the application layer of the OSI model, aiming to disrupt the functionalities of web applications or services. Unlike the volumetric or protocol attack, which focuses on overwhelming the network bandwidth or exploiting the protocol weaknesses, application layer attack aims to exhaust the server resources by mimicking the legitimate user's behavior. The next type of security threats are man-in-middle attack. So man-in-the-middle attack occurs when the attacker intercepts and relays the communication between two parties, often without their knowledge. So the attackers can monitor, manipulate, or alter the information being exchanged effectively, uh, placing them in the communication path. So this type of attack is also very common. So this type of attack can have serious implications for data confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. So let's try to discuss some of the mechanisms that are being used in man-in-the-middle attack. So eavesdropping is one of the mechanisms. So the attacker silently listen to the communication between the two parties, capturing sensitive information such as users' details like passwords, maybe credit card information, social security details, or some personal messages. Another type is session hijacking. So here the attacker basically takes over a user session after they have authenticated with a service by stealing maybe the session tokens or cookies. So the attacker can impersonate the legitimate users and gain unauthorized access to their account. Some other types of mechanisms that are being used in man-in-middle attack is SSL stripping. So by downloading a user's connection from HTTPS to HTTP, the attackers can intercept the data sent over an unsecured connection, exposing sensitive information. DNS spooling is another type of mechanism normally being used. So the attacker in this type of mechanism alters the DNS records to redirect the users to some malicious web site instead of some legitimate sites they intend to visit. So this can facilitate phishing attack or malware distribution. So Wi-Fi eavesdropping is another types of mechanism. So attacker set up some fake Wi-Fi hotspot that mimics the legitimate networks, tricking users to connect. Once the users connect, the attackers can intercept all possible traffic that are passing through that network. Now we move to the next type of security threats, which is SQL injection attack. So SQL injection attack are a form of cyber attack that exploit vulnerabilities in application software by injecting malicious SQL queries into some input fields or parameters. So this allows attackers to manipulate the underlying databases, enabling them to execute unauthorized commands, accessing some sensitive data, or modifying or deleting the record. So an SQL injection typically occurs when the application fails to properly sanitize the user's input before using it. So let's try to see some of the impact of SQL injection attack, because this is again one of the very well-known security threats in cybersecurity. So unauthorized access in the database. So one of the most immediate consequences of SQL injection attack is the unauthorized access to some sensitive data stored in a database. So attacker can exploit vulnerabilities to bypass the authentication mechanism, allowing them to view confidential information such as user credentials, financial data, personal data, and so on. So this can lead to severe privacy breach and identity theft. In the same way, data modification or deletion. So SQL injection can enable attackers to access the data, so they can alter or delete existing data within the database. So this could range from simple changes like modifying user profiles, or more like malicious act, for example, deleting critical records or altering the financial data, etc. So the integrity of the data is basically compromised here. So it can disrupt the business's operations and lead to significant financial and reputation damage. The next type of impact of SQL injection attack is the full administrative access to the database server. So in more like severe cases we are talking about here, the attacker can gain administrative privilege on the database server. For example, there are some SQL injection vulnerabilities, so that allows them to gain the full administrative access to some database server. So this level of access allow them to execute some arbitrary command like modifying entire database or modifying the database configuration, access all the data and the system. So full administrative access can result in complete like control over the database environment, enabling attackers to launch further attacks, accelerating the data, or even compromising the other connected systems on the network. So another type of security threats are cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting attacks occurs when an attackers inject some malicious script into web pages, which are being executed on the browser of unsuspecting user who visited those pages. So this type of vulnerabilities arises from insufficient like input validations and output encoding. So these type of vulnerabilities if exist in some web pages, so cross-site scripting attack are very common. So this will allow the attackers to manipulate the content that is rendering by the user's browser. Some types of some of its types are like stored XSS. So in this variation, the malicious script is stored on the server itself, maybe in the database server, and is served to user when they access the affected web pages. For example, the attacker might post a comment containing some malicious JavaScript on to a forum, and when the other users view those content, the script execute in their browser. So this can lead to unauthorized actions, data theft, and session hijacking. Reflected XSS is another types where the malicious script is embedded in a URL and it is executed immediately upon the user clicking the link. So the attacker send a crafted URL to victims, and when the victim clicks it, the server reflect the script back to the user browser without the proper validation. So this type of attack often relies on social engineering to trick the users into clicking the link. DOM-based accesses in this type, basically the vulnerabilities exist in the client side of the JavaScript code rather than on the server side. So the attacker manipulate the document object model, which we say DOM, in the victim browser, causing it to execute the malicious script. So this can happen when the web applications dynamically update the content of the page using untrusted data without proper sanitization. Let's discuss another type of security threat, which is known as zero-day vulnerabilities. So, zero-day vulnerabilities are security flaws in the software or hardware that are unknown to the vendor or to the developer at the time they are discovered and exploited by the attacker. So these vulnerabilities poses a significant risk because they are not known to the vendors or developers, and they can be targeted before any proactive measures such as patching or update are made available to the public. So here the term zero day refers to the fact that the vendors or the developer has 0 day to fix the flaws or some vulnerabilities since it becomes known to them. So let's have a look to some of the characteristics of zero-day vulnerabilities. So undisclosed. So as we have discussed, since the vendor is unaware of this type of vulnerabilities, so there are no available patches or security updates to mitigate the risk. High impact, because the attacker can leverage the zero-day vulnerabilities to execute various malicious activities such as gaining unauthorized access, executing arbitrary code, stealing sensitive information, or disrupting the services. So their basically impact is very, very high. And limited defense, as we have discussed, it's a zero-day vulnerabilities. So organization often have no plan to overcome these vulnerabilities that are being just discovered. So organization often lack the necessary defenses against the zero-day attack, because the traditional security measures like antiviruses, software, and anti-malware software, etc., may not recognize the exploit due to its novelty. Again, let's continue discussing this, because this is again a very important threat that we have to understand that clearly. So unauthorized access. So the impact is like when 0 days vulnerabilities are exploited, so the attacker can gain unauthorized access to the system, applications, or on the network. So this access may allow them to bypass authentication mechanism and security controls, leading to further exploitation of the environment. So this is really very, very challenging. So once inside the network or certain environment of the organization, so the attackers can potentially move anywhere in the network, right? So they can access any of the systems and so on. And as we have discussed, this type of vulnerabilities is really very dangerous in nature, because we are talking here about the danger, because the vulnerability is not known to the vendor. So vendor is, or developer, they are not familiar. Even the public, they are not familiar with it. So this means that there is no patches, there is no fixes or updates that are available at the time of the attack, leaving the organization vulnerable to the attack. So the Windows operating system, for example, have this type of issues that are being recorded, but the lack of immediate remedy is what makes it so dangerous, and the response that we require to immediately act on any risk that occurs is really challenging in this case. So data theft, system compromise, and disruption of services, these are the challenges that occurs when the zero-day vulnerability is being recorded. Now we move to the next type of security threats, that is advanced persistence threat, APTs. So advanced persistent threats, they are highly sophisticated, prolonged, and highly targeted cyber attacks. So in an APT, the attacker gain unauthorized access to a network and remain hidden for extended period, often months or years. So during these times, they engage in various activities like data thefts. Sometimes they continuously surveillance without triggering security alarms. So this is again a very challenging type of security threats. So APTs are typically launched by highly skilled attackers such as nation state actors or organized cyber criminal groups. So their main target is specific organizations, industries, or some countries. So if we go through the characteristics of APTs, so multiple phases. So APTs generally progress through several stages, including like initial infiltration, privilege encapsulation, later movement, data extraction, and persistence. So each of these phases is designed to deepen access and evade the detection. And the other characteristics is high level targeting. So APTs are highly selective, often focus on specific individual, department, or asset within an organization. So attackers spend extensive time researching their targets to understand its weaknesses and security postures. Prolonged presence, as we have discussed, so unlikely like traditional attack that aim for immediate impact, the APTs involve long-term stealthy approach where the attacker establish persistence access to the network, allowing them to execute their objectives gradually without raising suspicious. There are some examples recorded. So APT-28, also known as Fancy Bear, is believed to be associated with some Russian military intelligence agencies and has concluded multiple high-profile cyber sponge campaign. The other type of security threats are social engineering attacks. So basically, social engineering is a technique where the attacker manipulate individuals into revealing their confidential information or performing actions that compromise the security. So unlike like technical attack, social engineering focuses on exploiting human psychology, trust, and habit to achieve unauthorized access to the system or data. So it is one of the most common and effective method used in cyber attack because it bypass the technological defense by targeting people. So let's discuss some of the key techniques used in social engineering. So social engineering attack uses the following techniques. Pretexting. So this type of attack create a fabricated scenario to manipulate the target into divulging information. For instance, they might pretend to be an IT support employee asking you for the login credentials to fix certain issues. Baiting. So this type of techniques involves inviting the target to access some fake promises or offers such as free software or media to install malware on their physical devices. So these type of techniques can include leaving, let's say, infected USB drives in public areas, hoping someone will use them. Tailgating and Piggybacking, this is the other type of technique where the attackers follow authorized individuals into some restricted areas by exploring the trust of others. So these type of act and techniques involves following someone without permission, while the other type of techniques like piggybacking may involve asking for target assistance directly. So this completes our session. In the next session, we will discuss the concepts related to virus and malware. Thank you very much.